right, ladies and gentlemen, we have hoodies. We have hoodies now.
I'm not wearing mine because I'm warm, but we have hoodies.
Yes, we have hoodies. I am just very excited about this. I don't mean to open the episode with a branding. I am too high up for my camera. Hang on.
Yeah, your chair is a little higher than usual.
No, it's actually quite low right now. My knees are bent quite a bit. I'm touching the ground. I'm lower than you.
Change.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's closer than usual.
The tripods don't change.
Okay, whatever you say. Whatever you say. Anyway, yeah, I feel very low to the ground right now. I don't like this.
I can also tilt that up if you want me to.
Sit higher. There we go. All right, whatever. Anyway, I don't mean to open up with branding. I'm just excited about the hoodies, which are from Bunker Branding. You can go get them yourself on bunkerbranding.com, and if you just search the Lore Lodge. But yeah, so I mean, we have these. Also, we don't pitch our merch enough. So anyway, wanted to get that out of the way early because today we're going back. We're going back to basics. Back to the very thing that started this channel.
You want to let people know what that was for people who are not aware?
Yeah, so I mean, for those of you who have not seen our entire catalog or who are relatively new to the channel, we opened up this channel with one thing, which was a conspiracy theory that I came up with. There may have been other people who had similar ones, but this was not something that was like told to me and I started repeating it. Which was that the reason that there are all of these different depictions of cannibalistic humanoid monsters across America, particularly in Native American storytelling, was that there was something out there that was super strong, super fast, perhaps bigger than us, that hunted human beings, and that the National Park Service partially exists for the purpose of studying and containing these things, whatever they are. I realize that sounds crazy.
Well, your initial response, do you want to let them know where that initial response was, what platform, and then what that
TikTok?
spawned into? Yeah.
Yeah, so I made a video about that on TikTok, and then a whole bunch of people were like, hey, make a YouTube video about it. So I did. And that was the birth of the Lore Lodge. I'm not quite sure I'm still with that. We've done a lot of looking. We've done a lot of digging. I will tell you guys off the bat that this week's video coming up on Friday does get back into that a little bit. It does take us back to the Wendigo being involved and not necessarily the aspect of the Forest Service covering it up, but the idea that maybe the Wendigo in some form or another, and you'll understand once you watch the video all the way through, is responsible for these disappearances. But it requires drilling down into what the Wendigo is and why it fits for this story. So I don't want to spoil anything for the video for Friday. But I thought it would be fun for this episode, and with Halloween around the corner, to bring it back here and to look, where in 3 years have we gone researching these cases, and what is it that's changed? Because when I first got into this, and a lot of people have commented on our videos being like, oh, you guys just hate David Paulides, like, stop. Excuse me, I'm still getting over pneumonia. You guys just hate David Paulides, stop trying to steal David Paulides' stuff. Somehow we're both copying him and hating on him, which is something I cannot personally comprehend.
I love the levels of mental gymnastics that you have to go through to get to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm. It's like when that one guy accused me of plagiarizing Tread in a video where I directly contradicted and argued that Tread was full of lies.
Well, specifically calling out each lie from the documentary.
Exactly, and using articles that were not cited in the documentary. Anyway, for those who don't know, back when this channel started, there were two people who I thought were ahead of the curve and were on to something that the mainstream had not caught up to.
Just before you name either of them, I think I know who they are.
Okay, do you want to guess?
My guess is David Paulides.
Of course.
And Graham Hancock.
Exactly. Now, Graham, I'm not as critical of.
Yeah.
Because Graham has shown a capacity to learn and to change, to just generally, actually work with the science and work with the discoveries. So he went from the crustal displacement theory that we talked about in the Chan Thomas Adam and Eve story video, way back at this point, I guess over a year ago now. Yeah. He started off there in the 90s, and then as the science changed in 2007, there was a study by Firestone et al., who they came to the conclusion that there had been a comet impact near Greenland 12,000 some years ago, 12,800 years ago, I think. And that's what caused the Younger Dryas, and then something else caused the warming period. Maybe it was just a natural reaction to the cooling, but that was the idea. As I understand it, there's been recent research that has gone against the comet impact theory. I am not up to date on it. We haven't talked about Graham in a while. I haven't really studied it. But my understanding is that the science is up in the air at the moment, but there are studies on both sides of it by reputable geologists, climatologists, like people in the field. So Graham, I don't get on quite as much. I think Graham is asking very interesting questions, and I think some of them are the right questions. I do think he's wrong on a number of things also. But I also think that the response to Graham is typically academically elitist rather than argumentatively sound. I went over this in one of our videos about him in our first Ancient Apocalypse video, actually. But with David, I was hardcore for David. I was behind him on everything. I was like, all right, you know what? This guy, he's figured something out. There's something weird going on here. He's a cop. He would know. He would know how investigation works. He was a detective. So when David says the police couldn't figure out what happened, or the police could not determine a cause of death, or the cause of death determined by the police didn't make sense, I believed him. And I did not really look too deeply into it because my concern wasn't so much with looking into the case as it was looking into what was around it. All right, well, this person, suddenly vanished in the mountains. They were there 1 second, they were gone the next. Like, nobody saw anything. Something must have snatched them. What could it be? I was more like, okay, given this set of facts, what can we determine happened? The problem was that the facts, I don't think, were quite what they proposed themselves to be.
And why is that, Mattis?
David Paulides leaves a lot of things out. Sometimes he adds things that aren't there. My goal in doing this episode wasn't to just trash David Paulides. It was more to talk about what the theory was and, how we evolved off of it, which is unfortunately inextricably linked to David Paulides' work.
Well, that's the thing. This discovery of his work and the lack thereof in some cases, or the surprising existence of it, but also non-existence anywhere else, is kind of the keystone in what the turning point was for particularly your research, but the whole channel altogether.
Yeah, getting to a point where, it was becoming very evident that most of these disappearances had mundane explanations. That changed the way I thought about things. I started looking, I'm going to be honest, I went from trying to prove the paranormal to trying to prove the normal in these cases. And I think that was honestly the better direction to go with it, because it required looking more deeply at each case, because now I have to actually find all the information. I don't have to, there's no more, if the premise is it is paranormal, then I'm already starting from that paradigm, and that doesn't produce as good research. But then every once in a while we did come to one. Like I still think Jim McGrogan's a weird one. Like,
you give the people a general cliff notes of what that was.
Yeah, so Jim, he was I want to say a doctor, I believe it was. He was on a snowboarding/skiing trip in Vail, Colorado. He's hiking up a mountain with some of his buddies. They're like a mile into the hike. They decide they want to sit down and take a rest. He decides he wants to continue onwards, and he's never seen again, except for a few weeks later when his body turns up off the edge of a cliff miles out of the way he was supposed to be going. There is a trail that would lead him away from where he was supposed to go. The confusing part is then, well, why did he keep going the wrong way? Why didn't he call for help? Why didn't he just go back down the way he had come? sometimes the only valid answer is stupidity.
Yeah, I still love Kat's explanation for this. And granted, it does have to do with her bias against surgeons. But she assumes that it was just the general arrogance that they tend to have.
Yeah. I'm open to that explanation for that one.
Yeah.
There are others, however, that I think we're going to need to get out there to really understand what happened, like Garrett Bardsley being one. Garrett was a 12-year-old Boy Scout who just vanished up in the Wasatch Mountains less than 150 yards from his dad and his campsite.
Yeah, that one makes almost zero sense to me as well.
Just, I mean, there have been people who've said, oh, it was a mountain lion, but from what I can tell, he was carrying his fishing rod, and mountain lions don't take fishing rods.
Also, the fact that it was so close to his father and the rest of the people at camp that a mountain lion would be able to do anything without him even getting out a yelp is shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, it would have had to have been waiting for him, basically.
Yeah.
Now, mountain lions are quiet and they're good at hiding. Like, they are difficult to spot. If there was one there, it's a perfectly reasonable explanation. And if they're quick enough, they just cut your spinal cord. You can't yell. But where's the fishing rod?
Yeah.
That's where I got stuck. It wasn't could a mountain lion have got? Yeah. Mountain lion wouldn't have taken his fishing rod.
Yeah. Where's the fishing rod? Where's the blood? Where's any trace of any disturbance in that regard? Yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
So I can't wrap my mind around Garrett Bardsley. And it was things like that, okay, well, if it wasn't a mountain lion, and we talked about this in the Bigfoot video this past weekend, where I did see a bunch of comments where people were like, oh, well, cougars do tend to step in their own tracks, and also bears have been known to double walk. I will admit, for this story, I sort of assumed that two men whose entire job was hunting and tracking would be able to recognize the difference between a bear that was standing on two legs and a bear that was simply walking in its own footprints, because bears' hind feet do have a different shape than their forepaws.
Yeah.
Mountain lions, I don't know as much about. Mountain lion, to be fair, he was in a panic at the scene of what would have been the mountain lion attack. Maybe he just didn't look that closely. But my assumption was kind of like, okay, well, it said these tracks were also plain as day, and it's going to be easy to tell the difference between mountain lion tracks and something bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because mountain lions I think male ones only get up to 140 pounds. Mountain lion tracks aren't much bigger than like large dogs.
Yeah, and they're not very dissimilar in that regard.
Yeah. Nor do they appear, you can tell it's a cougar track.
Yeah.
It
is distinctly feline.
I could identify a cougar track, and I'm not like,
you're not a tracker
on these things. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between a brown bear and a black bear paw, but I can tell you the difference between a bear and a cat.
I could tell you the difference between a brown and black bear.
Could you?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
If I'm remembering correctly, a black bear's paws are more straight, whereas reverse. Black bear has like curved signature on their claws and their front feet, whereas a brown bear is very straight.
Right.
So you'll see the print will be like that for a black bear, and that for a brown bear.
So you're saying that some bears are more straight than others?
According to nature, it would seem.
It would seem. But anyway, yeah, it was stuff like the Garrett Bardsley cases that have kept me, to this day, a little bit superstitious,
Yeah.
And, as I said earlier, the conspiracy theory was that the National Park Service exists and national parks exist to contain something. A lot of it was, based around some stuff I had read in a creepypasta of all things called Primal Fear.
Also a great novel.
I wish I had thought to bring it up and have it like ready to read, but it's a short one. Gist of the story. What?
Sorry, I just saw Uncle Chaw's chat come in saying cougars typically wear high heels.
Oh, good Lord, man.
Anyway, continue.
Oh, boy. So, I lost my train of thought.
You were going to start talking about how the national parks were developed to hide something.
Right. Yeah. And that this something was along those lines of this thing described in Primal Fear, which is, all right, there is, humans, by and large, have an innate fear of things that are, look like us in terms of form, but have deep sunken eyes, pale skin, sharp teeth, elongated faces, like all of these things you see in a lot of movies, like just the thing that scares us tends to look like that.
Yep.
I mean, the nun in the Conjuring movies, that one, sunken eyes, pale, longer, elongated face, sharpened teeth.
Even something as simple as the Michael Myers mask.
Yeah, like that's just, for some reason, that specific set of characteristics really bothers us. It's psychologically considered part of the uncanny valley, something that is near enough to being human, but obviously not, that makes you kind of get the shivers, And that's what Primal Fear was about, was like, okay, well, maybe the reason we have that, maybe the reason that exists is because there used to be something that hunted us. I looked at it through the lens of, all right, well, in the Bible, we have the mention of the Nephilim. And, Enoch says they were cannibals. Okay. Maybe that has something to do with this. All right. In Ojibwe folklore, you have the Wendigo, which is tall, skinny, sunken eyes, gaunt. All right. Then I looked at, okay, well, skinwalkers have some of these characteristics. Didn't know nearly as much about them at the time. And I was like, maybe that's just the Navajo version. And there have been times as I've looked through it, earlier this year when we did the Bigfoot series, where I was like, yeah, these tribes are all describing the same thing. I mean, like, a lot of them are describing the same thing.
Yep.
So what's going on there? And that brought us to where we are in a really roundabout way. But, when I was looking at it, most of the cases, it's not anything. Mark Hansen, I was, okay, well, maybe, he was there and then he wasn't, and his stuff was just sitting there on the trail. Did something snatch him off the trail? Well, as we now know, Mark was found. And he was found in a place that, when you consider the context, all of the details involved with the case, makes sense, actually. Like, Mark was found in precisely the kind of spot I would have expected him to be. He also was a 20-year-old who had never been hiking before, out on the Appalachian Trail alone at night.
Yep.
It would have been weirder if he didn't go missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, looking at stuff like that. And then we come to things like Teddy Roosevelt potentially having an encounter with Bigfoot.
I gotta say, the result of the research on that, in terms of your conclusion about the story and specifically who was narrating it, did end up surprising me.
What do you mean?
In all tellings of the story that I had heard previously, obviously before you had done like the deep dive research that you do so well, I would have assumed that it probably was going to be Roosevelt that was telling the story of someone else, when it was really just him trying to hide the fact that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by your conclusion, not necessarily by your conclusion based on the facts that you presented, just that the facts existed to then lead you to that conclusion based on how many versions I'd heard where it seemed almost self-evident that he was Bauman.
So you know what it really was?
What's that?
And this is another funny thing. I posted a link to that in the Bigfoot subreddit. And one person actually said that they had never heard the suggestion. And this is somebody who's like a mod on the Bigfoot subreddit, had never heard the suggestion that Bauman was actually Roosevelt. Apparently that has been like outside of the Bigfoot community. Like, that's not a Bigfoot community thing. That's more of a general paranormal community thing, which I thought was very interesting.
It is.
But I think the reason that people frequently come to the conclusion that it could have been Roosevelt is that most of the retellings, if I were to guess, are coming from the version of this story that is posted on Project Gutenberg.
Well, yeah, I mean, considering most of the paranormal community is on the internet now, they're mostly going to be looking at sources that are on the internet.
Yep. And I got to admit, it was hard to track down the story. The Wilderness Hunter is a long book. There's two different editions. I think one's 400, one's 600-ish. You got to read the whole book to find it. Or you at least have to, find it on Google Books and be able to search the proper terms, because it's not listed in any of the table of contents. There's no The Goblin Story or Bauman's Tale.
Mm.
In one, it's actually in different chapter headings.
Oh, really?
In the two different editions, in the 1920s edition and the 1883 or 1893 edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think the the edition I used was actually from Penn State's library. So, you know, shout out Penn State. You go, guys. Like, that's... back in college, my professors used to say that Penn State had one of the most comprehensive libraries in the world. Penn State has one of the most comprehensive libraries in the world. It's incredible.
Color me impressed.
It's also huge. It is a big building. Anyway, I think the story most people use is the one that's on Gutenberg. And the one that's on Gutenberg seems to be copied from another website, Gaslight something, that has the full story as reprinted by Ernest Thompson Seton, who is a Canadian naturalist who actually was also fundamental in the structure of Boy Scouts. So he was as well as Lord Baden-Powell, who I think got it started in England, and then Teddy Roosevelt was also involved in getting Boy Scouts off the ground. So all of these men together were like naturalists and conservationists, and nobody knows this about the origin of Boy Scouts, which frustrates me. Not nobody, but like a lot of it was not something we talked about in Boy Scouts.
Really?
No.
I mean, granted, I was also a Boy Scout for like 6 months, and I didn't know it, but like, you know, 6 months.
I was there for years.
Yeah.
We never talked about Roosevelt or Seton or any of that, and I think it would have been really cool to understand that origin and why Boy Scouts was what it was, because they had a lot to do with it and their experiences shaped it. But Seton, he published a version in 1932 for his book Famous Animal Stories, which also got a little bit of criticism from the naturalist community because a lot of them were like, well, a lot of these stories are obviously fake. And he's like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah. A lot of these stories are fake. It's famous animal stories, not real animal stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was like, you didn't actually do that. And he was like, you can't prove it. Like talking about like hunting a specific wolf or something.
Yeah.
You lost connection to something. There we go. Are we still live?
I believe so.
You want to check? We are still live. Beautiful. All right. So Aiden's computer did a silly, goofy move.
It does that sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, Seton's version of the events includes a preface, but it also omits a line.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it omits that line is it pretty directly is Roosevelt saying, I don't think this story is what Bauman's saying it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily Bauman lied, but I think Bauman's upbringing, the stories he was familiar with, put him in a position to see this as something paranormal when in reality it was nothing of the sort. And I don't remember the exact wording of the line.
Didn't he allude to potentially being a cougar and bear attack combined?
Seton did.
Oh, okay.
So in the line that's left out of Seton's version, which I believe is the one reprinted on Gutenberg that leaves out Seton's preface, is along the lines of, you know, but Bauman was a man who was raised with these goblin stories and was well aware of all of the, you know, things that go bump in the night. And maybe in his panic and over the years, he assigned, I think, weird and elfin traits to what was in reality something completely natural. And that wording not only suggests that Teddy doesn't think it was something unnatural, but also that it wasn't Teddy at all. Because why would he talk about himself like that? I mean, maybe, sure, maybe, but there's enough details in there. You know, he was an old man who was born on and passed all his life on the frontier. That doesn't describe Roosevelt.
No.
Roosevelt might, if Roosevelt was talking about himself and, you know, kind of alluding to it, I think he would have said, you know, that he was a man who had been raised on the East Coast and sought the adventure of the West. All right, well, then it's Roosevelt. But also the age doesn't make sense. This is when Bauman was a younger man. Bauman's old now. He's old in the 1880s, so he would have been young in the 30s through the 50s. Like,
yeah, and that's one of the other things I was going to ask about the timeline, because wasn't the age gap between Roosevelt and Bauman pretty significant in that regard?
It was said that he was an old man when this happened, and Roosevelt would have only been in his 30s.
Yeah. Which even then, that was definitely not considered old.
Yeah, Roosevelt would have been in his 20s or 30s at the time. Yeah. So he was definitely a younger man. But then there's a part in Seton, which I don't have a reason to doubt Seton on this one. It would be a weird decision to lie under the circumstances. Mm-hmm. But Seton says that Colonel Roosevelt had told him about this, and Roosevelt preferred to be called the Colonel. He did not like being called Teddy. And he was a colonel, so that made sense. He said that Colonel Theodore Roosevelt told me this story about this German named Bauman, this German American named Bauman. And, at the time, we agreed that it was most likely, a combination of two things. It was a bear that was messing with their campsite, and then the thing that attacked his friend was a cougar, and that the cougar was also the thing making strange noises in the night. Those things put together really heavily suggest that Bauman was not Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I do still wonder, maybe that's a discussion about, or maybe that's them discussing, hey man, I heard and saw this really weird thing out there. Or it could have just been two guys having a drink going, I heard this really weird story once from this one guy. What do you think it was? Because they were both conservationists and naturalists. That was just the kind of conversation these men would be having. So for me, it wasn't so much a matter of it's okay, it was definitely not Roosevelt. I think I even say in the video at the end, I'm not really sure. I don't think we ever can be sure. But I don't think that it's safe to make that assumption based on the evidence. And when I think about it, if his point in starting the Forest Service and in establishing all these national parks was to contain something, would he not have made more direct references to it? Would there not be a document somewhere where somebody in the government, we're not talking about the 60s, we're talking about pre-CIA, pre-FBI, the people who would have been hired to go hunt one of these things would have been the Pinkertons.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to believe there would be documentation.
Specifically documentation that at this point would have been leaked in one form or another.
Yeah, or that somebody just would not have recognized needed to be censored.
Yeah.
The the CIA just sucks. Yes, that's why I netted out where I did on the Bauman issue. Why are you trying to make Archie howl? Why are you doing that? I can hear it. Archie, come here, buddy. Come here.
We are in fact in the same room.
Oh, there we go. What a guy. What a guy. Look at this little man. Oh, yes. Hello. I'm going to get him visible for the cameras.
Oh, they can see him on
there we go.
On yours.
Here we go. Look at that. Look at that camera. Look at you. Aren't you a cutie?
Oh, he's such a handsome.
You want to give him a howl? You want to give him an ooh?
Okay, so yell at me for making him howl.
While we're in the middle of a conversation. You want to do the howl? Ow, ow.
Bring the mic a little closer.
Good boy. Good boy. He's such a good dog.
Archie is what he was trying to hide. This is what Teddy was protecting everybody from. This cute little fluff ball.
Protected. Look at this thing. He's just a baby.
He's just a little baby.
Just sitting here like a baby. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, okay. I got you. He did not like that I removed my arm. There we go.
He is a baby.
Just a little guy. Just a little guy. You want to sit down? You want to get down? Would you stop?
The answer was vehemently no, considering.
That's what it was. He did not want to go down. Okay, all right. I guess it's Archie cast. I gotta move him out of the way. See, he doesn't. That's the thing too. Those little screams, they're so performative.
Yeah.
They're so performative. He was in no way in pain.
No.
He just wanted to get back up on my lap.
Yeah, the only pain there was the pain of being removed from your presence.
Yeah, exactly. He's a ridiculous creature. But yeah, so I'm in this weird spot where like my rational brain is, going, all right, time and time again, you are coming to the conclusion that there's nothing here.
Yeah.
But then every once in a while, that said, I think that there's definitely cases where I'm like, this doesn't make sense based on what, like the conclusion the police came to, the conclusion the authorities came to doesn't track.
Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Dennis Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I would not think the Dennis Martin one was quite so strange if it weren't for the weird stuff that happened with Harold Key. And I don't mean the stuff David Paulides said happened with Harold Key. I don't mean like, the alleged sighting of a wild man running with something on a ridge. No, I don't buy that. I'm talking about the FBI intercepting him on the way to a prearranged meeting at the park, saying something to him, and then him leading them to a place that was absolutely not the spot he described to the newspapers.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't. I don't think the National Park Service is hiding anything. I think the Park Service is mostly just dudes and dudettes who like the wilderness.
Well, and that's the funniest part about all this is that as we have gone on as a channel and you've done more and more research and we've put together these little video essays, documentaries, whatever you would like to call them.
Now? Okay.
How the general opinion of the National Park Service has changed.
Oh, I love them now.
Yeah.
National Park Service, great. They're awesome. I have no notes. Every National Park Service ranger I've ever met has been super cool and helpful. I mean, it is not a high-paying career. You have very little upward mobility. There is no financial freedom. It is a hard job. It is long hours. And people do it because they just love the outdoors.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to do this because I just love this place. You got to call him up.
Come on. Up.
Cross your legs a little bit more. He might be worried he doesn't have any purchase. I don't know them. He's just staring.
Come on. He's just sitting there. His tail's going.
Yeah, he wants to get up. He's not confident. Oh, there you go. He just needed a bit of runway.
Yep, he needed a bit of space.
Archie is the quintessential lapdog.
He really is. Which is funny because he's barely small enough to be a lapdog.
He really is barely small enough to be a lapdog, but he's great. You're such a good boy. So yeah, I love the National Park Service. I think it would be very funny if we got a brand deal with them.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Honorary Rangers or something.
Go ahead, buddy.
He doesn't know what he wants.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he wants.
Same goes for the National Forest Service. Most state agencies as well. They're all generally well-meaning, hardworking people.
Yeah.
Which is rare when it comes to three-letter agencies. Most of them are awful. The IRS agents, terrible. Deport them. Gone. Most of the FBI, with the exception of the ones who work on serial killers and child disappearances, out. Send them to Timbuktu.
Yep.
The ATF, just I can't even say on YouTube.
Well, there's only 1,734 of them.
1,718, but they've added some recently. We need to update the shirt.
Yep.
The Bureau of Land Management is.
You're on thin ice, buddy.
On thin ice.
Depends on how many times you pull the eminent domain card in a given decade.
Yeah. Fish and Wildlife is cool too.
Fish and Wildlife is phenomenal.
For the most part, they seem chill.
Yep.
I feel like they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, there are some three-letter agencies that we like, but they're the ones that are dedicated to, helping preserve America's wildlands and wildlife, not the ones that are dedicated to finding any excuse to imprison their fellow man.
Oh, you mean the ones that, create a positive and beneficial resource for the entirety of, the American citizen populace?
Dude, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms should be a superstore, not a government agency. That sounds like a good night, like a good weekend, not what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's what the Bass Pro Shop should rebrand
yeah,
itself
exactly. Exactly. I should be able to walk into Cabela's and buy all 3 of those things.
The true American dream.
True American dream. So, but yeah, great. I have a good opinion of the of National Forest Service, National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife. Those guys they're doing the right thing. The rest of you. But yeah, so when I see stuff like Harold Key's story suddenly changing, and it was frustrating. It was so frustrating because I'm sitting there with the map, just like measuring, okay, is there any route that he could reasonably have taken that would put him in the spot he told the Park Service he was? Keep in mind, his meeting was with the Park Service. The FBI intercepted him. And then he told the Park Service something he did not tell the papers.
Yeah.
That's not the Park Service lying. That's the Park Service being kept in the dark by another federal agency.
It's just the biggest question that's left on that. And specifically because I know the whole like Green Berets going dark essentially for a while was kind of tangential to this.
Yeah.
The biggest question that's left is like, what could possibly have been going on that they needed to suppress in the middle of this search?
No idea. And that's the thing is like, we were talking to, when Faith, we were up there in Alaska, I was talking to Faith about the tree people and all that, and how, I wasn't sure if Wendigoon was just screwing with me or what. And she was like, no, that's a thing. Like so nonchalant about it. Like just, yeah, there's wild people. They're not like, feral humans, but there's people who just live out in the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I have a feeling that happens a lot.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that happens all over the place.
Yeah.
Especially in a place as big as the Smokies.
Yeah.
But, still, like the number of people who made fun of me for even suggesting it, only to have multiple locals confirm that this is very much a thing that happens. The other thing about that case that I think got overlooked a little bit, even though like I put some detail into it, there was that meeting on, I think, the 20th, late in the search, this is like a week into the search when the Green Berets have been there for several days. They have this meeting with the park rangers where they go over what's going to happen when they find Dennis in a specific location. They thought they were going to find him in that one spot. Now, for the life of me, I cannot remember what the spot was called, but they thought they were going to find Dennis in a very particular area of the park that was across Eagle Creek from where they actually were. It was something Gap, or I can't remember. Aiden's trying to find it right now. I think Dennis was yellow, maybe?
Not Crib Gap.
No. Well, here, find Spence Field, Kate's Cove and all that.
Hang on.
There you go. I think it was Haw Gap, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, we got... we got Haw Gap.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Haw Gap then.
So that was... Let me zoom in real quick.
Is it just southeast of Spence Field across a ridge? Yep, Haw Gap. They were setting up pretty hardcore in Haw Gap. Like they followed. So they discover tracks that look like they're from a young child. They follow those tracks across a creek. The National Park Service says, nope, there's nothing there. And then the Green Berets followed the creek that the tracks were located on up over a ridge and down into yet another gap where they prepare a spot for a helicopter evac.
Yep, and
a mobile comm station.
And for context, because I just measured it, the as the crow flies distance between Spence Field and Haw Gap is less than 1.5 miles.
Yeah, the actual like walking distance was something like 3 miles.
Yeah.
It seemed like they thought they were going to find him in there. Like, really seemed like they thought that. And it wasn't phrased as like a training exercise. It seemed, reading the documents, it seemed like they were talking about specifically getting Dennis out of there. Maybe they were just using it as a training exercise at that point. It's possible. But that one struck me as odd. Not necessarily the smoking gun, but weird nonetheless,
Yep.
Dennis, Garrett, Carl Landers is another one that we haven't looked into super deeply, but that one's even got Nick from Missing Enigma pretty confused. Because like what? Huh?
What's the details on that one?
Basically, this older guy who was actually also like suffering from altitude sickness, which a lot of people have suggested like might have been maybe something about altitude sickness got to him and that's how he disappeared. But I think it was I'm pretty sure it was this one. I don't want to put the wrong words into Nick's mouth, but if you want to go back and watch our most recent episode with him, we talked about it. He basically said that when he went there, there was nowhere you could have gone missing between the next shelter or the summit or whatever it was and where he was last seen. It's just like open ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was nowhere for like he would have had to deliberately try to get lost up there. So that one's weird. I think we ended up coming to a reasonable conclusion about Eric Lewis, where he probably fell into a crevasse.
Where was that again?
That was Rainier.
Yeah. Then definitely for sure.
Yeah, so we thought he had fallen into an ice crevasse. He was at almost 14,000 feet.
Yep. I wonder what time of year was that again?
Like April.
Yeah. So there's still plenty of opportunities for that to happen at that point.
It might have been June. I can't remember. Whatever it was, he was out of season to be climbing that high on the mountain.
Yeah.
Like they don't recommend you. They recommend you do not climb the mountain that time of year.
Also, whether or not it was in the summer, the spring, the fall, or the winter, Rainier has snow and ice on it year round.
Yep.
So especially if it was out of season, because then no overbearing snow and ice would be covering a lot of those deep crevasses. They're a lot more exposed, a lot easier to fall in.
Yeah.
Especially in June when you're in the middle of meltwater.
Yeah. So, and the other one, Stacey Aris.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to mention the lens cap thing about 30 minutes ago.
So that's the thing is David Politis adds in this detail that a lens cap was found. I'm not sure where it comes from. It's not in any of the FOIA documents.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is somebody said something about it to him because that's typically how those things end up in these stories is somebody else wrote it somewhere and he uncritically took their word for it.
Yeah. Well, then where did the thing also come? I think it was, what was his name? Aaron?
Hedges?
Yeah, Aaron Hedges. Wasn't that the one with the feet and the shoes? Or the pants?
No, that was McCullough. It was Charles McCullough.
Charles McCullough, right.
Which, again, seems like he heard something from some hikers who heard a thing from someone.
Yeah.
And went there. Meanwhile, the actual documents and the people who actually interviewed park rangers who were there at the time, they don't mention that. They're very clear about what was found and where it was found. And the thing is, in our video, I pointed that out and I was like, the hell is that about? And then I said, you'd have to be an idiot to think that this wasn't foul play. And then, thank you, Nick.
What did he point out?
He came up with a very reasonable explanation of why it was not foul play and how this could happen accidentally. That was based upon basically me misreading the topography of the area. And I was like, all right, you win.
Well, the main reason he was able to figure that out is because he actually went.
Yeah, he actually
there,
went.
Right? Yeah.
So,
which, as we personally learned when we were in Alaska, makes a big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Very big difference.
Yeah.
Like, truly inconceivable difference.
Which is why we're glad we're going down to Tennessee next month.
Yeah, and then we're going to be in Yellowstone next summer, which, by the way, we still have spots available for week 2 of that trip. It is a guided tour, all-inclusive, except for, I think, a couple of meals. You do have to travel there on your own because, obviously, they can't work travel expenses into the price because flights from different parts of the country are going to be different amounts of money. We don't get free flights either, so we have to pay for our own transport. But, yeah, guided tour. Did it again. Guided tour. All-inclusive, campsites included, camping gear included, travel, like transportation included. Runs about, I think that if there are still 2 spots left, those will be at a discounted $17.95, and then the full price is $19.95 for the full week. We we may, if there's going to be some downtime, we may schedule a time where people who live in the area could come out and, grab dinner and drinks with us, but I have to see what the actual lineup of events is. So, we'll see about that. But, we going to the actual location for these cases has, on a couple of occasions now, between Paul LeMay in Alaska and Tommy Booth in Ridley here in Pennsylvania, I mean, going down there and looking at it, we were like, yeah, no. He did not accidentally fall into this creek. That did not happen. Sorry.
Especially with the context of some of the photos that we were able to look at and the rest of the case. It's like, this was staged for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Ridley Township, if you're listening, come on. We all know. We all know. Just investigate it. You have all of the files. Just do the right thing.
We know you have all the files. We've seen them.
We have the files too, and if you don't do it, we will. So this would not be the first time that we figured something out before the police. And the Philadelphia Inquirer still has not given us credit.
Nope.
It's great. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
They did say internet sleuths.
They sure did. They sure did say internet sleuths.
Because they really didn't want to get beaten by YouTubers.
They did not want to get beaten by YouTubers. So yeah, I mean, that's I also like just being in the Smokies that one time.
Yeah.
That has factored into every single Smokies case we've covered, because being down there, it is dense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a jungle.
Yeah. For
all intents and purposes. I know it's a rainforest.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technical definition of jungle is.
Yep.
But it's like being in a jungle. There are knots of bushes and trees and all kinds of other things all over the place. It is very difficult to move off trail. He pulled up the definition of jungle. What is it?
There are a few. The top one is a tropical rainforest, a dense, tangled area of tropical vegetation that can be nearly impenetrable. Jungles are usually found in humid or tropical climates and have many plants growing around and on the ground between the trees. The next is a confused mass. And the third one is a maze or something that baffles.
Yeah, that last one.
Yeah.
I mean, those trees and bushes in there are so dense that you essentially cannot go off trail for much of the park.
Yeah, another one from Oxford Languages says, an area of land overgrown with dense forest and tangled vegetation, typically in the tropics. I guess not always in the tropics.
Well, is it not considered a tropical rainforest due to the humidity?
No, a temperate rainforest.
Temperate rainforest? Okay. So yeah, it's a jungle.
Yep.
Still, this is, to me though, that's, if it weren't for the FBI thing, I'd be like, oh, they didn't find Dennis because Dennis was a tiny child who was able to climb through all of these trees, lost his footing somewhere and got stuck in a place people would never anticipate he would be or be able to find him.
Yeah, same thing with Paul LeMay.
Yeah, with that seems to be what happened with Paul. But in the case of Paul LeMay, an FBI agent didn't show up, a month later and tell somebody not to talk about it and to mislead everybody about what happened.
Yeah.
That's apparently what happened in the Dennis Martin case. So, another one's weird for sure is Trenny Gibson, but I'm of the opinion that she was probably kidnapped. And that it was probably prearranged and that she thought she was running off with a boy.
Yeah.
And in reality, she was, something happened to her.
Yeah.
I do need to look back into that because somebody had sent us some details about the Robert Simpson character who we couldn't find in the yearbook. That may or may not change things. I'll mention it in the meta-analysis video, which we're shooting in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Even still, though, the detail of like working all summer and not really spending anything and spending essentially, what was it? She spent the amount of money on a ring, supposedly.
Yeah, that would have taken her 6 weeks of working 40 hours a week at minimum wage that year to earn.
Which is possible, but just not plausible.
It doesn't make a ton of sense. She worked all summer to buy that one thing.
If there was
nothing else,
if there was an external reason that ring was symbolic of something, maybe.
She also did have like $200 in cash and $1,000 in a bank account back home, that she left behind.
Interesting.
Which on the one hand, you're like, okay, well, would you do that if you were intending to disappear? Would you do that? I wouldn't.
Probably not.
The bank account, sure. The cash is the one that has me confused because bank
Yeah.
account's gonna. I mean, it was what 1976,
Yeah, mid 70s.
mid 70s. 16-year-old girl going to the bank to withdraw $1,000 in cash might raise some red flags that would result in a call to her parents. It was a different time.
Yes.
But on the other hand, there was the fact that her mother apparently shot at a boy who they claimed was trying to break into the home. But my wonder is, was he going out the window, not in it? So
Different time.
different time. Some other people suggested, oh, maybe Trenny was, maybe she was gay. Maybe she was a lesbian and she ran off to go live that lifestyle because it was less acceptable back in the 70s, to which I would say I think she would have taken the cash.
Yeah, again, yeah.
The only reason I could see her not doing so is if she was running off with like an older man. Because again, the 70s, different time, it was a lot harder for women to have their own independent bank accounts.
Yeah.
It wasn't unheard of. If they were working and single, sure, yeah, that happened. And this was, I think, in the 60s, it became much easier as a woman to get a credit card. But like there are reasons for the time that I would question any explanation. But the problem is with that case, every single potential explanation has a caveat.
Yeah.
Which is part of why it's so weird. But so is the idea that she just walked off the trail and disappeared into nothingness. So I don't know. I don't think that one's necessarily.
Wasn't she with like a group of people?
She was with a whole group of students.
Yeah.
One other thing that keeps coming up, people with that case say like, oh, well, I heard that that nobody knew the field trip was going to happen that day. And I found that absolutely nowhere. I think it showed up in Baldwin's book, which I have verified on several occasions is wrong constantly.
Also, like, even back then, just logistics wise, you as a teacher can't just like say, hey, let's all go as a class to the Smokies. I'll just grab one of the buses out back and we can go. It's like, no, there's logistics that you have to go through with the school.
Also,
so somebody's gonna know about it.
If she had disappeared on a school field trip and the parents like were aware of this, that they were going. Sorry, if they had gone on a school field trip and the parents weren't aware, neither were the students, there would have been a lawsuit following this.
Yeah.
And it would have been a very expensive one for that district. Because if you take 30 kids on a field trip, don't tell the parents, and then lose one, there's no waivers. Like, a 16-year-old signature on a piece of paper ain't going to fly in court. So, I guess the why does it keep doing that?
I don't know.
The moral of the story here is most missing 411 cases are very explainable. Most of the National Park Service conspiracy, as I conceived of it 3 years ago, doesn't seem like there's evidence to back it.
Yep.
But there are still some really weird disappearances, man. Especially in the national parks and forests. And I'm not totally sold on the idea that there's not something out there that they're not telling us about. And I don't necessarily mean something supernatural. But maybe there are a few more people living out in those parks than they're admitting to us.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it past some of these communities, if that is what they would be called, to be a little weird. A little deliverance, or what's the other wrong turn? Those are not accurate depictions of Appalachian people by and large, but there's a few spots that I've seen in documentaries and just read about in stories where it's like, okay, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are some isolated people, all right. Yeah, there are still people living down in the Appalachians who don't have running water. Yeah. There are some weird little hollers down there. I mean, they're so isolated that they have a different word for that than we do. We say hollow. Like, Appalachian is a dialect of English. Philadelphian is not. Californian is not. It's just slightly different slang terms.
Yeah.
There is an entire Appalachian dialect. that is
Wow.
understood to be separate from regular English.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is have a conversation with somebody from deep in the hills of West Virginia. You're going to have a hard time understanding what they're saying. I encountered it outside of State College, Pennsylvania, which, granted, right up there in the ridges. That is an Appalachian school. You go 30 minutes outside of the university into the boonies. There are some people out there who they're very nice people, but that's not English. And they live a different life than you and I. So, I'm at this point a superstitious skeptic, I guess.
You're slowly coming towards my side of the aisle.
Slowly. It's okay. One day, hey, Ashton Forbes is sure onto something. Maybe I'll be wrong about this too. For those who follow our Twitter, you may have seen me going back and forth with Ashton today. He does not grasp the concept of edited video, which is shockingly prevalent amongst conspiracy theorists. Although now that I think about it, no, it's not. It's prevalent. It's just not shocking.
I thought I made it pretty clear.
You did make it pretty clear.
Thank you.
He's like, it's not an exact match. And I'm like, it can't possibly get closer.
For those of you who have any vague interest in it whatsoever, the way video production works, specifically post-production video editing in terms of visual effects, you can't get a pixel-for-pixel match of someone else's work unless you know exactly what they did, even if you have the same assets. For example, if two artists have a mound of clay, and you make a sculpture out of a mound of clay, how would you get a particle-for-particle recreation of that unless you knew exactly what the other person did, even if you both started with the same clay?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. And I will add, there are only two reasons why you wouldn't be able to comprehend that. One is that you don't understand how visual effects works, which is fine. Not everybody does. I went to school for film. There's a lot of things about visual effects that I don't understand. Two is that you know exactly how visual effects works, and you are trying to create an argument that you know cannot be beaten because you know that it can't be beaten, because if you don't explain it properly, then it makes it seem like there's no way for the two things to coexist at the same time. But as we just learned, you can. You just have to have the info. That's my lecture for today. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
You forgot about option 3.
Which is?
They're stupid. I don't think that's Ashton's problem. I think Ashton's problem is he is deliberately ignorant of how video effects works because I've explained it to him 12 times.
Is it actually a full dozen times?
I think at this point it is. I have explained this to him over and over again in the simplest possible terms, and he still refuses, which I don't get because his argument at this point has gone far beyond that video being real. He's talking about like the existence of various technologies and government cover-ups and all this stuff that is totally independent of MH370. And yet he's stuck on the video.
Well, because it's the keystone to his whole argument.
I don't think it is anymore. I told him I point blank, and it was not an attempt to screw with him. I straight up said, you will be more credible if you come out and admit you were wrong about this.
Yeah.
You know why I think half of my credibility is there? I have come out and admitted that I have been wrong numerous times.
Oh, but my friend, you haven't been following the string theory drama.
No, I have not.
Do you have any idea what's going on there?
You've told me the basics.
Yeah.
You may tell the people.
For those of you who are not aware, apparently, if you grew up like me and you watched Discovery Channel and Science Channel and Nat Geo and all those things growing up, and you just kind of like spent all of your childhood in front of a TV watching those channels and eating goldfish, hi, welcome to the Special Interest Club. But one of the things that you may be familiar with is documentaries that were presented by people like Michio Kaku or Neil deGrasse Tyson or a variety of other people at that time about string theory and this crazy new theory that was the beginning steps of the bridge of a unifying theory between, macro, theoretical physics and, microphysics, essentially, to use the wrong terms to generally describe what it is. And so for 40 years, roughly, that was like the foundation of the theoretical physics field was string theory. And they were really just like kind of pushing that hard. Well, apparently, and I am not a physicist, but this is what I'm following. Apparently, a lot of the champions of string theory are now starting to flounder a little bit, and they're starting to acknowledge, well, that's not real string theory that we've been talking about for 4 decades. That's like a different thing. It's actually this other thing, but no, we can't prove it because the experiments are not possible to theoretically do in our universe. But trust me. And so apparently there are a lot of other physicists who were anti-string theory because they had competing math that, kind of deconstructed some of the elements of string theory that, were the foundational elements of it, that are now upset because a lot of their careers had been undone by the dominance of string theory and essentially the suppression of other even potential other, theories of the field in the field, I should say, which I think is relevant to this thing that you're talking about with Ashton, because if what he's doing is trying to essentially create a new theory of understanding about some element of physics, if he admits the video's wrong, then the foundation of his theory's wrong, and he has no leg to stand on of what may or may not be an interesting theory. I think the same thing's happening with Terrence Howard right now.
Yeah. Dude, I honestly, the only thing I can see with it, because at this point, I think he's being disingenuous. I think he knows the video is fake. Because his responses to it never actually counter any of the arguments I make to him.
Yeah.
He just kind of is like, no, obviously it's fake. Also, another thing I've noticed, I never insult him in any of the interactions. I'm always like, Ashton, you and I both know this. Therefore, meanwhile, he's like, calling me a basement dweller and shit like that. And I'm like, first of all, I'm pretty sure I get out more than you. You worked in IT in a hospital, and I do this. Like, I was in a band. You installed computers. You want to go toe-to-toe on who's dwelling in the basement? Like, no shade to IT people. I know a lot of them. They're really cool people. But they also don't appear to be like Ashton. Like, these are people who go and, like, build their own costume to go to a LARP festival.
Which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that that's the kind of behavior that would have made you popular in high school, but it's still something outdoors and enjoyable that people find interesting and cool.
Yeah.
I find that interesting and cool. The main reason that I haven't done so in my life is because I figured I could never go back. You do something that nerdy, you're never coming back.
Aren't you doing that, though?
What? No. It's different. It's a Renaissance fair. God, dude. What are you talking about? I totally wouldn't go fight a bunch of people with a foam sword. Or a real sword.
I mean, hey, if Dean did it.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. For those who are going to be in Kentucky the weekend of the 1st, we are going to be down there at a Renaissance festival near Louisville, I think, with Stephen Bell and Gabby Bell of History of Everything. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I think, we should go to Super Chats.
Yeah, because we do have quite a number of them.
Oh, Lord.
Quite a bit of a number. Is there any last-minute things you want to say on that topic as I search through the beginning of the Super Chats?
I think we covered it.
Thanks for giving me that buffer. All right, moving on.
Oh, well, all right, if you want some buffer.
You're good. Gomb has given us a number of Super Chats for his membership.
How many of them involve the word bussy?
All of them, which is why I'm going to paraphrase.
Okay.
We love you, Gomb, but... he is giving condolences for the death of my grandmother. Yes, for those of you who were not aware, because I wasn't public about it, but it's come up now, so I'll address it. My grandmother died earlier this week. Last week. It's Monday. Sorry. So yeah, I was in the hospital for that. Funeral arrangements are kind of in the middle of happening, so things have been a little hectic here. But yeah, love her, miss her. Honestly, you know, I'm mostly just kind of looking out for the rest of my family at this point, because as much as I loved her and still do, I did not spend anywhere near as much time with her in my life as people like my mother and my aunts and, you know, some of my cousins and stuff have, and obviously my grandfather. So for that reason, I'm mostly just trying to support them to the best of my ability. But nonetheless, that is one part of it. The next one is just that it will come for us, which you already know what that means.
We all knew that.
And then the last one is when the day comes, our legacy of such will be known to be our fault, and that we have done this to ourselves. Redacted cannot save you from it.
Yes. I do think it may be my fault that that entire thing made a comeback.
It ever went away?
It was a thing in like 2016. I did not see much Ussy anything until after the Wendussy. And then it was everywhere.
I'm disappointed.
Listen, maybe it wasn't me. I would love for it to not have been me.
No. I'm disappointed the blue snow shovel bit hasn't taken off more.
True, I did miss that one.
Yeah. That may or may not make a comeback this week. Just saying.
That should be, you know what, for the series we're thinking about doing, if we get that one deal with that one thing.
Yep.
Maybe that should be our like front, is we run a snow shovel company.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we fund our expeditions.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to think of a good name for it. All right, I'm in. That could be fun. Trains and stuff for $6.66. That sounds a little concerning. Says the National Park Service hides the cryptids because if not, I would...
Yeah, I saw that one earlier. I was waiting for you to get to it.
I would consummate a marriage with every single one, whether it's male or female.
He would know them biblically.
He would know them biblically. Bibblegi.
Biblically? The biblically?
That says the Bibble. And Trains and Stuff has been a member for 5 months, so thank you. Asklor for $5 says, do you think the National Park Service is hiding the true potential of muscular Christianity so the Freemasons will have a better chance of implementing the NWO? Probably, yeah. They're afraid of you getting swole for sure.
Can I just have one day?
No.
Just one day?
You know what we do for a living. We're not allowed to have one day.
By the way, for those of you seeing that members of the channel get a free super chat, members of the channel get a free super chat once a month. You can join the channel for just $1 by clicking join under the video. If you do so, it helps us weather algorithmic difficulties like we are currently doing.
Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed, the most recent videos are not popping off.
Not doing good.
As usual, despite the fact that it is the same content that we've been doing for half a year now.
Yeah, so we're not sure what's going on there. We figure it's something with the algorithm, probably a little bit of fatigue of the content style, but then we switched it up hardcore and went back to, all right, let's do our lore videos again, and that one did even worse. So this is not us blaming you or complaining. We're just observing it right now. And one of the things about Patreon and YouTube memberships, things like that, is when we have those consistent income streams, it can help us to be better prepared for times like this, because basically twice a year, YouTube screws with the algorithm in some way or another, and our views drop precipitously, and then they kind of crawl back up to where they were.
Yep.
So that's, when you're running a business, that volatility is not enjoyable, but
when you're starting a new podcast with two in particular other history YouTubers, and you want to do it well, when you want to make financial investments to make that podcast as good as it can be, but then this happens, it makes things a little more stressful.
But yeah, so we try not to hawk the Patreon and the YouTube so much, but it is at times like this, that is a helpful buffer. So, if everybody who subscribed to this channel did the $1 membership, we would be making feature films by now.
Yeah, which is the end goal if you guys weren't aware of that.
Yeah. But we are very happy with where we are.
We are.
So, I saw a couple of people just subscribed. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
The next one is from Tyler Dalrymple for $2.23. Love the specificity there, saying, so the Lodge comes full circle, your OG conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You got it.
We're on it. And then Trains and Stuff comes back again for $5.56. Also love the specificity. Sorry, I'm putting my hair up. Saying, something I don't feel like I should repeat on a podcast I just talked about the death of my grandmother on.
Oh, no.
But you can read it.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to read it.
Trains and Stuff. We're going to let the people.
I don't want to read that one.
But thanks for the $5.
I don't want to.
You'll
Something
see.
about milk. I could have used that milk to eat my magic spoon earlier.
Yeah, Magic Spoon actually is great. This video is not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or
No,
form.
this one is not sponsored.
But the video that we're shooting for Friday is sponsored by Magic Spoon, and I'm not gonna lie.
They sent us a box of it. Like, listen, we've done Magic Spoon ads in the past where I've been like, you know what? It's not quite as tasty as like what I remember, but like from high school, for like childhood, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like eating Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
But it's still tasty. This one indistinguishable from Fruit Loops.
Totally different story now.
Yeah, I mean they must have done something to their formula because this stuff tastes good.
Yeah. We're not getting paid to say this right now.
No.
We just really enjoyed it.
I literally just had a bowl of Magic Spoon earlier while we were filming that ad for this Friday's video, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is good.
Yeah. So we're excited that we're doing partnerships with them in the future because it's a really good product. Nonetheless, Botanical Raven for $4.99 says, my pet tarantula died today. Do you think I will be able to see him again in heaven? Is there salvation for my tiny friend's soul? First of all, I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not really information on that in the Bible.
Unfortunately, the Bible did not pay good attention to arachnids.
Yeah, here's what I see is I would say that yes, there is potential for that based on what the scripture actually says. I don't know that it's quite as simple as the tarantula has an independent soul that will be reunited with its owner once it reaches once you reach heaven, but I would think that if you wanted to be with your pet again, you would be able to. I know I certainly hope that is the case because of a certain fluffy little dude right here. Yeah, that was you that I'm talking to. You want to come say hi? You want to come back into the picture? Hi, there we go.
I gotta say, let me find it again.
He looks like a cloud.
Emerald Queen saying, I have alarms set on my phone because I don't trust YouTube to actually notify me of anything, is first of all, so indicative of why we started doing premieres for our videos to begin with, so that way you know every week when we're going to be putting something out. But the fact that we have to do that, and the fact that you have to do that on your end so you don't miss it because YouTube doesn't do their job properly, is shocking.
Yeah, YouTube is like, I'm going to notify people when I think they're going to watch. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a live stream. So maybe notify them when it's going live.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Nonetheless, totally not JMO for $10.03. Love the specificity again, sir. Milk fever has done and got me down. Milk fever, it's spreading all around. With a jug of gold in my hand, I'm a-going out to stake me some government land. Milk fever done and got me down.
Huh?
I don't know, but I love it. And next time,
Same, but what?
next time we're around a campfire with Mike,
Yeah.
when he pulls out Sam McGee, I'm pulling that one out.
Good move.
Pumpkin Bear 7 for $5. Thank you, Pumpkin. Says, take my money. I also went on a train ride recently. It was fun. I honestly wouldn't shock me if the NPS is hiding something. Trains are great. Love that you had a good time. And yeah, would not be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden, but spelled Aedan, which
That is a spelling.
That's a new version for me. Yeah.
Or Irish one.
Yeah. I thought we were the Irish one.
We are the typical Irish one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the really Irish one. Yeah. Love
Well,
it.
there's also Aodhan. Aiden.
Aiden.
Mhm.
Love that. That's
The
cool.
old Irish.
Yeah. Says, hello, fellow Aidens. I've been greatly enjoying binging the channel the
Thank
last
you.
few weeks as a folklore nerd. Wendussy forever.
Hell yeah.
Love that. Thank you for stopping by. Ask Lore for $5 says, I think the SHTF event will be when our power grid and infrastructure, highways, bridges, etc., due to lack of upkeep or natural disaster. Thoughts? I think you're right to some degree, and I'm glad that no matter what party it was, that has now gotten over $1 billion. I think it's $1.25 billion in the last couple of years to rework a lot of our infrastructure, because I know personally going around and looking at a variety of different elements of our infrastructure, whether that be bridges, whether that be roads, needs it a lot.
We gotta like boat proof our bridges too, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, we were down in Baltimore while that was like being repaired.
Yeah.
The boat was still there like a month later.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Nuts. All right. Gaius Rex for $9.99 says, "Oh, Supreme Leader Mattis of our totally not a cult, Mr. Thornberry has mispronounced my username twice now.
Oh boy.
And for that, I must commit a crime against the federal government." Sad face.
Hang on. First of all, why sad face?
Is it Gaius or is it
Gallius.
Gallius?
That says Gallius.
Why am I doing Gaius?
Your brain is probably just ignoring the L's.
I think it's my few years of Spanish that are kicking
Gaius.
in. Gaius.
Gallius.
Yep.
Yes.
So Gallius Rax. I apologize.
Is it not Rex?
No, it's RAX.
Oh, Gallius Rax.
Yeah.
He just stares into your soul.
I know, it's so cute. What do you see? What do you see when you look at me?
Your sins. Lots.
Oh. But not enough for you to hate me.
No. He's a great therapy dog.
He is.
He just accepts you for who you are.
And you know what? What more could you want? What more do you need? Mindless Cyborg has become a new member.
Thank you, Mindless Cyborg.
Shepard for $7.62 says, "Love the show and the channel. Like the creepy and folklore stuff more than the murder podcast stuff. Keep up the good work, boys." Thank you.
What about creepy murder podcast folklore?
When does he?
Yes.
Thomas Broadaway for $10. You're gonna need to let me know how to properly pronounce that. Says, "Would love to say that I'm starting to study Native American history in part thanks to your history sections. I would love to know if you have any book recommendations. Thank you."
Ooh. So I will admit, most of my research is done through just like journal articles. But I will look into it. I have a few book recommendations, especially for the Ojibwe. If you go on, we have an Amazon shop. I think the link is in the description. It may not be, but if it's not, I will get it added somewhere, where I have a book recommendations, a couple of lists. One is for collections, one is for individual books. But anything by Basil H. Johnston, I will try and get those uploaded. I think Johnston's work is great in a lot of respects. There are certain places where I think he takes the traditional narrative over the scholarly opinion, and I understand why, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But in terms of understanding the point of view and the perspective, and a lot of the storytelling is phenomenal. I think Johnston's got some of the best stuff. But if you go to it's like shop.amazon.com/Aiden Mattis or something like that. I think we have him on there. But I think that there's a link to that in the description where you can find him.
Nice. I do have to shout out Alex Corp, just throwing a regular chat in there because it made me laugh, saying, where'd it go? Thornberry ignores L's because he simply does not take them.
Okay, you know what? Sure.
Like that. That was fun.
As of today, Amanda and I were approved for an apartment that will make us next door neighbors with Aiden.
Oh yeah, we're literally gonna live. Our doors are about the same distance away from each other as we are currently. So that'll be entertaining.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of. We'll be able to go on walks and matching tracksuits.
Yep.
Yeah.
And skip to work.
Exactly.
That'll be great, actually. Amazing.
It wasn't on purpose either.
Which
Like,
is
we were
so
looking at this-
funny though.
He moved into that complex because I had an apartment there and he liked it.
Yeah.
So he moved into a different building in the same complex. We decided to go back to switch buildings, switch apartment complexes, and just in the course of trying to find a floor plan we liked, we ended up looking at the one next to his place. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, we gotta.
Yeah.
Like, we can't not.
So many fun dinners.
Yeah. might end up saving money.
Yeah, literally though, honestly. The next one was Pumpkin Bear 7 for $5. Thank you very much. Saying, I say for the ones who can't be explained, pocket dimensions are my theory. Thornberry knows why. I have my own experience with pocket dimensions. Yeah, she did mention this on one of my train streams.
How has this not been mentioned before? We were walking around New Orleans with you and pocket dimensions didn't come up. Granted, I was sick to death the entire time we were doing that.
Kind of like you are now.
Yeah.
My boy, you give my immune system a run for its money. I think you might be the reason I frequently get sick.
Maybe. I get sick, infrequently. It's just bad when it happens.
Yeah, that's true. But
Partially because I did not understand how pneumonia worked.
he's learning.
I'm getting better.
He's getting better.
Getting better.
Now, next time we reach a week and a half in and Amanda and I start yelling at him to go to see the doctor, he's not going to wait another week and a half.
I might wait 3 days, though.
No, let's not.
Nonetheless, Pumpkin Bear explained this on one of my train streams, which if you go to my personal channel, we occasionally run some trains.
Why have you been streaming the trains?
Because I destroyed my truck and I need to buy a new engine for it and I need to get my channel monetized. We're not going to talk about the reasons other than the fact that I just really, really like trains.
I'm happy for you.
Thanks. Yeah. No. I have a lot of expensive habits and a lot of lack of knowledge in those areas, and it causes me to break things, and then I have to pay for breaking them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hurt anybody. I don't break other people's stuff. I just happen to like machines that break. You know what the ironic thing is, though?
What?
I bought that truck because it had an engine that everybody says was bulletproof. The only reason it broke is because I didn't know enough about diesels, worked it too hard, and it probably, if it wasn't that engine, I probably would have literally blown it up going 60 on the highway, doing what I was doing.
And what were you doing?
Towing a very heavy load. We're not going to discuss what on this podcast. Nonetheless, the next one from Vampire Pluto.
No. I think it's relevant to discuss the fact that you were towing a boat that also had engines that don't work.
Had.
How's that macerator going?
It's not. We're moving on. Vampire from Pluto for $5.24 says, when you hit 1 million sub scan, I'm assuming that means subscribers, we do a group hiking / camping trip.
Subs can.
Oh, subs. Can we do a group hiking / camping trip to Dyatlov Pass per chance? That would be interesting.
I mean, you using the word perchance certainly elevated the possibility, but we might have to wait for a certain conflict to end first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure that the State Department would accept the excuse of we need to find the Menk. Because I'd also have to explain what the Menk is to the State Department. And then why we're looking for it there. And then I'd also probably have to explain it to the Russian State Department.
At some point in this
Let
transaction.
me get this straight, Mr. American man. You come here to look for a Bigfoot creature. And I'd be like, well, no, Menk. And they'd be like, this is same thing. Why do you think we put Gulag out there? It is so that if person leave, Menk get him.
So you're admitting to the existence of the Menk?
Well, what Menk? Gonna get out there. We're gonna be at Dyatlov Pass. We are going to see the Menk. And then we're just going to black out and wake up in some black site in Russia with Putin himself standing there with like a bullwhip.
Yeah.
Shirtless, of course.
Oh, 100%. On the back of a bear.
Yeah, no. My worry about if I were to be abducted by Vladimir Putin would not be the violence. It would be the sensuality of the thing.
Yes.
You know?
You do not understand. In Russia, the Menk find you.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we need to be kicked off the internet. Anyway,
all right, next.
Aiden for $4.99 saying, can y'all look into the disappearance of the Broadway actor Zelig Williams by Congaree National Park in South Carolina?
I most certainly could. I'll just have to remember what the name was.
I'll write it down real quick. And then we had one from JMO for $5. Meltwater Pulse 1B caused all of this. The Windussi, the Matussi, the Thornbussi, and the Kabussi. It is the cause of everything. I will cause nuclear winter.
That was a series of words, JMO.
I appreciate you referencing the Kabussi, considering you've been watching the train streams.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Also, don't cause nuclear winter. I may have a jacket addiction, but I do like to exist.
Yeah, White Boy Summer should not be followed by nuclear winter.
That, if anything you've ever said belongs on a shirt, that's it.
Okay.
Anyway, I need to put Zagel in another tab before we forget it.
That is one hell of a sentence, too.
It is.
Gotta remember to put Zagel in another tab before I forget about him.
That is a sentence of all time. Go away. There we go. All right, Ela, which is the name of a station in the train game. All right, I'm done. For $4.99 says, I'm planning a Great Lakes colonial fur trader themed D&D game. Any recommendations for supernatural creatures or events to throw at my players? I mean, a Great Lakes colonial fur trader themed D&D game sounds like a perfect combination for the Wendigo.
Wendigo should definitely be in there. Wachuge should be in there. Yeah. The Nakani, that is another Dene one that is similar to kind of a Wendigo, Wachuge, Bigfoot kind of topic. I would actually, the Nakani is a really cool one, and the Naha tribe, because there is actual indigenous folklore about this missing tribe of very violent wild men that you can work in without it being like the bad version of that narrative where it's like, you know, oh, those savages out in the woods. It's like, no, even the natives are scared of these things. Like, this is their story that they came up with, not us.
Yeah.
So if you want to use something like that, if you want there to be a danger of being raided by these feral wild people, there is actual Native American folklore you can use. The disappearance of the Naha tribe and the Nakani. So our third Bigfoot video from this past year, it is the something like do Sasquatch are Sasquatch tribes kidnapping Native American women or something like that. That one I think is the one where we talk about the Nakani. So you could do a deep dive in there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Matthew Kassler is a member.
Thank you.
And has been for a month. Dimitri Miner for $5 says, I seem to remember you guys taking The Stairs in the Woods as a non-fiction story. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, so there were a couple of news reports about there being stairs in the woods, which, of course, coincided then with the creepypastas about it. I think they may have even inspired it. But what I think I might have alluded to was that the stairs in the woods thing, the creepypasta phenomenon where you go up the stairs in the woods and you disappear, sounds a lot like the way that you can enter the other world in certain Celtic mythologies, where you go through a portal that seems natural in some way or another, but is not quite there, like sailing across the Western Sea, going into a cave, climbing a set of stairs in the woods. There are certainly like examples of random staircases in the woods that people have found. The question is, why are they there?
Well, do you know the answer to that?
I know that there are suggested answers, like that the stairs are one of the most sturdy parts of a house. So once the house collapses, the stairs tend to remain.
Yep.
Just that they're not really collapsed houses. They're just a single staircase in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, the likelihood is generally that there
Yeah.
was a structure around
Oh, yeah,
it.
for sure.
Yeah, because I know there are some around here that are kind of like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm not saying it's something weird. I'm just like, yeah, there are examples of this.
yeah. The real William White has been a member for 5 months.
Thank you.
Mindless Cyborg for $5 says, first time I've been able to watch live. Always had to listen on Spotify at work. Found y'all from unsubscribe and
Woo.
rapidly became my favorite channel. Well,
Oh, well, thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I just talked to Eli from Unsubscribe over the weekend.
We're hoping to do some more fun things.
Yep, some very fun things.
Oh,
Might be launching an exclusive where Aiden and I go ghost hunting in a pseudo-natural.
In unnatural manner.
Yeah. It would be actually us and unscripted going into haunted houses just with a heavy dose of references to a 2000s cult classic TV show.
Heavy reference.
Heavy references to a TV show.
Yeah. Which, of course, we're nothing like.
We actually placed in a costume contest last night.
We did. It was all Cats doing as well.
Yeah, as the crew from Supernatural.
Yep.
And the songs we sang were all from we did Carry On Wayward Son, Renegade by Styx, and Heat of the Moment by Asia.
Yep. And we got some compliments from
We
some
nailed
impressive
those
people.
harmonies on Renegade.
I am
Go us.
so good.
Would you guys watch a Lore Lodge karaoke if that was a Patreon special?
Honestly, that'd be really fun.
That would be a fun one.
I would do that.
They get to choose what songs we do.
Oh, that'd be cool. Let's. So Renegade is like just out of my range, but we can try. We certainly tried, and somehow we did it.
Yeah.
I think you came down a little bit for me, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry On Wayward Son,
That's a hard one.
I was really.
Yeah. Then equals the spender.
So good. Agamemnon's Gym Bag for $5.56 says, been a while since I could catch a live stream. Bully? What does that mean?
Huh?
Catch a stream, bully. I think that's...
I believe that was an older term for, like, great, right?
I have no idea.
Like, bully for you.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And we've also been a little inconsistent
Yeah.
lately, but,
What
what haven't we been that
the
with?
plague.
Yeah, that'll do it. Patrick Herbie153 McNally for $10 says, if the NPS is trying to hide something, then that means they are trying to hide something in the Water Gap Recreation Area by wanting to make it a national park, despite a local tribe being against it.
Wait, what?
Apparently, the Water Gap Recreation Area is somewhere that, the NPS is trying to turn into a national park, despite a local tribe being against it.
I'll have to look into that because if it's already a recreation area, it should be under state or federal control. So I'm wondering what
Maybe they're trying to expand it.
maybe, yeah. Or maybe the tribe has certain rights to it as a recreational area that it wouldn't have as a park.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Totally Not JMO for $2 says Aaron Gobra.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Earfig, ERFIG 32 for $8.73. I love the specificity.
Very specific.
Found y'all 4 months ago from the Killdozer video. I'm a couple of episodes behind. Listened to everything from the beginning. Biggiefoot and Saskets.
Yes.
Yes, very
Yes.
much so.
Thank you for going back and watching the catalog.
Impressed that you have done that, and grateful because
It-
people doing the deep dive means a lot.
Yeah, those, most of the channel's revenue comes from people going back and watching the old videos. So that's always really appreciated.
Yeah. We shockingly, you may be surprised to find out, we don't make a lot from new videos.
No.
It's the fact that we've been doing this for 3 years that we're able to do this as a full-time job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my God, my nose.
Barrel Racer 12 for $5.23. Again, love the specificity. Saying, was having a bad day until we got Archie Awoos. Much better now.
He does help. Hi, buddy.
He really does.
He's just scratching himself in the middle of the floor right now. Hi. Yeah, I know. Hey, bud. He found out we were talking about him. Now he's staring at me.
Yep.
Hi.
Archie,
You want to come back up?
come on over here,
Come
buddy.
back up and say hi to the people? Oh, he needed some more runway. Come on. Come on. Come on.
There he goes.
Sometimes he needs to build his confidence.
Yeah, he does. He does. Kelling the official data for $4.99 saying, no thoughts, just a woo from the boy.
Yep.
Do you have any words to say?
Words. He has nothing to contribute.
No.
He will not be forced to speak.
No. No.
Before he is ready.
He is welcome to speak at any time, but he will not be forced to. Patrick Herbie 153 McNeely for $5 says, what if the NPS is trying to hide the fact that Bigfoot made Jenny jump off the cliff and not a Native American at Jenny Jump State Forest? Again, another thing we're going to have to look into.
Yeah, now I got to look into that too. I did not know there was a Jenny Jump State Forest named after somebody who jumped off a cliff.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's just a wild name.
Yeah, the fact that anybody would name a park after that.
It can't be that that it's named after somebody named Jenny who jumped. That can't be.
Yeah, that's...
There's just got to be a place referred to as Jenny Jump, right?
Jenny Jump State Forest is a state park in the U.S. state of New Jersey, operated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's Division of Parks and Forestry. It is located... Sorry, I started reading that without realizing they were not going to tell me why it was named that way.
Yep.
Yeah, it is said that the park was named after a girl named Jenny who jumped to her death on Jenny Jump Mountain while being chased by a Native American. That feels wrong. That feels so wrong.
I have to look into that.
Jenny Jump Mountain is a mountain in Warren County, New Jersey. We could go here easily, too.
Yeah.
The summit rises to 1,129 feet. In pop culture, author John R. Neal, who regularly illustrated the sequels to Wizard of Oz series before taking over the writing himself, lived in New Jersey during his last years. He gave the name Jenny Jump to his signature character on an adventure. Okay, so this is just general.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that one. That's wild. What's the history segment say?
Just says, an 1834 description read, Jenny Jump, a noted eminence in the northern part of Oxford Township, Warren County, extending northeast and southwest for about 10 miles and into Independence Township.
Weird.
So the mountain doesn't have, at least on Wikipedia, which, obviously,
Yeah.
Wikipedia.
I'll have to look into that. That's wild.
Yeah, that feels weird. I don't know.
Okay.
Somebody said Jenny is also a female mule, I believe?
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
That a mule was stolen and ran off.
Interesting. All right, fair enough. Moving on.
Yeah, well, because, if you think about it, all mules are female. Right? So that's not a myth, right? All mules are female, I think. Look it up.
I'm not debating you. This is just news to me. Is this the same reason why they can't? No, not all mules are female.
Weird. I remember being taught in middle school that all mules are female.
But most mules are sterile because of their odd number of chromosomes.
Yeah, maybe that somehow got
Male is a horse mule, known as John or Jack. Female is a mare mule, known as a Molly.
Interesting. I can't remember who told me that, but I was a kid. I always just kind of assumed it was true. All right, well,
Mules,
maybe a female mule?
maybe.
That would make the most sense, because you would talk about it as a she.
We're going to have to look into it.
Yeah.
Next up is Totally Not JMO for $2 saying, guys, they made plushies long ago this past summer. Yeah, we got one.
Yeah, got one right here.
Back there.
We don't sell them online, but if there was an interest, we would find a way to do so.
Spin the, yeah.
We have an Archie plushie.
Yep.
Cat made them. It's just a little Archie. I'm not calling you, buddy.
With some custom,
With some
Oh, wait, hang on.
swag.
some custom tags that she did so well.
What you doing there? Oh, it's showing it off.
Yep.
Here, let me see. I want to see what Archie does. He's investigating. He took very little interest.
He was like, "That's not me, and that's not my dad. I'm not interested." Anyway, Warsage for Canadian $2, I believe, says, "Don't forget about how much you love the RCMP."
Oh yeah, I just love him. Totally didn't rag on him yet again in this week's video.
Yeah, definitely wasn't another element of today, or the video we shot today. Vampire from Pluto for $4.20. Love the specificity, saying, "How do you feel about the DMV?"
The Department of Motor Vehicles or the DC, Maryland, Virginia area?
I don't think they're talking about the tri-state area of DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
Okay, the DMV. 99% of that agency's work could be done automatically.
Yeah, I think it exists to provide people jobs.
Yeah, I remember I went into the DMV earlier this year because I had to do an address change on my license or something. Gotta do that again now.
Huh. Gotta get the
yeah, it's not the full thing. You just go in and they just reprint it for you. But the one day of the week that most people actually could bother to go to the DMV, that being Saturday, it was totally understaffed. They had like 4 people working.
Of course.
This is a big one. This is a big DMV in King of Prussia.
Yep.
4 people working. I was like, this is the one day people can actually come here. You must know this. This must be an every weekend thing. And you have the bare minimum number of staff. Come on.
Killing the official data for 556. Love the specificity, saying, Fish and wildlife game wardens have way too much unconstitutional power to circumvent the Fourth Amendment. Any Sebastian Rogers updates?
Ooh, yeah, I would not be surprised if they did have a little too much search and seizure power.
Yeah.
As for Sebastian Rogers, so far, most of what I've been seeing, certain people are being sued. Yeah, someone was arrested for, harassing the family or something. Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved for a hot minute. Might still be involved. To be honest, there's not a ton of movement on it, and it's kind of fallen down into, unfortunately, like a bunch of YouTuber drama between the people who are pro Proudfoot and the people who are pro Rogers, which is frustrating as all hell, especially because every time you try and actually point at the evidence, a lot of the people who are on the other side of it, because I'm not on anybody's side here, I just looked at all of the evidence and went, wow, Chris Proudfoot is not only verifiably a lying, abusive asshole, but also there is considerable reason to be suspicious of him, in my opinion, based upon the evidence. It's frustrating that I can't make headway with that because a whole bunch of people were not careful about how they do things and about the information that they were putting out. So the thing I will say is this: the FBI has put up a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery or rescue of Sebastian Rogers. The FBI does not get involved in missing persons cases unless they think there is a criminal element, because they are the FBI, not search and rescue. They are not the local sheriff. They do not have responsibilities outside of enforcing the law and investigating crimes.
Yeah, there's a reason why they are the Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah, so if they're involved, and they are, them putting out a reward is them directly involving themselves. That means that there is some reason to believe that a crime was committed.
Yep.
I don't want to toot my own horn. It was less than a month after our videos came out.
It is entirely possible that they came to the conclusion internally on their own, based on their own research.
Or it could have been the 80-something page document I sent them.
Oh, I forgot you sent them a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. directly to them and the TBI.
Did you ever get any response?
No. Well, I did from the TBI,
Oh, you did? What'd they say?
just that they had received it.
Got it.
I don't know for sure. I would be pleased if that were the case. It would mean that I had an effect on it, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case, but what I found is that, from what I can tell, a whole bunch of gossiping about it got nowhere. A coherent, organized write-up on it, for all intents and purposes, may or may not have worked. So maybe some YouTube true crime people should consider being ethical.
Yeah, I think people forget sometimes that you actually can have an effect on the things you talk about, and generally, whether or not you think you do, you do. So
yeah,
lightly, at one's own risk.
What I've seen lately with the Sebastian Rogers thing is it has ceased being an effort to find Sebastian, and it has become an effort to prove that the other side is responsible for whatever happened.
Oh, you mean a genuinely good faith thing turned into tribal, my team's going to win because your team sucks issue?
Yeah.
In America?
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
It's upsetting.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Nonetheless, the next one is from the Castman 777.
I would like to go home.
As would I.
At some point.
The Castman 777 for 1,000 yen.
Oh, thank you.
Saying, Mormons believe that the Native Americans were descended from the Israelites. Since Bigfoot was from a Native American tribe, that means Bigfoot is Jewish. Mazel tov.
In Mormonism, Bigfoot is Jewish is not something I anticipated having to think about, but I don't think it's necessarily off base. Only within Mormonism, because the Native Americans are definitely not Jewish. Like, no, come here. Native Americans are not the 10 lost tribes of Israel. They're not.
Do you want to
they were here a long time before that happened.
Oh, okay.
The 10 tribes were lost during the Assyrian and Babylonian conquests of Israel and Judea in the 8th and 6th centuries BC. Native Americans have been here for 25,000 years or potentially much longer. Also, by the way, I just want to say that a few years ago, I pointed out that the Cheruti Mastodon site, as well as the Topper site in Carolina, but more importantly, the Cheruti Mastodon site, was very interesting and could potentially rewrite the timeline of human history in the Americas. And a whole bunch of archaeologists on TikTok yelled at me because they were like, that's pseudoscience. That's not real. No. Mini Minuteman just came out with a video on it.
You know what's funny? When you do that look, especially as you get older, you start to look more and more like Russell Crowe.
Okay, I'll take it. But yeah, for those who don't know, the Cheruti Mastodon site, they found mastodon remains that have what may be tool marks on them.
Mm-hmm.
They are 130,000 years old.
Oh, sorry. I'm just laughing considering how hard stop they were at 13,000 for so long. For so long. Anybody who went outside the paradigm was just, no, you're wrong. Yeah.
One guy who we talked about, he's apparently, there's some other controversies about him. I don't know. One guy we talked about in, I think, one of the Bigfoot videos, maybe, was that.
You're out of focus because of the Archie thing, but that just got you back in focus.
Okay, weird. Anyway, I can't remember exactly. It might have been one of the CTK videos, actually. I think it was. One of the archaeologists involved was like, I think that these artifacts in this cave are probably like 25,000 years old. This was, I think, in the 40s.
Yeah. And
everybody was like, what are you talking about? People have only been in the Americas for 13,000 years. And, how dare you? Yeah. And then it turns out, down the line, they find some footprints, and there is a seed pressed into the dirt by the foot. And they carbon date the seed, and they're like, it's 23,000 years old. That's wild.
God, don't you hate people sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not fun, is it? But it lends itself to hilarious moments like this.
It's great, but
It is wonderful.
continue along.
Ellen the Howler Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, pass this donation on to the National Park Service.
Okay, can do.
We shall. Miss Maury for $10 says, just wanted to let you know if you don't see super chats from me for the next 3 months, I'm still here. It's financial on my end. Once I get past January, things will be golden. Just got to make it that far.
Hey, take care of yourselves first.
We will always say this.
Yeah.
Watching is more than enough. Anything else is a bonus that just helps us make things better here. Never give us what you need.
Yes. Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your review is the most we will ever ask for from you guys. Like, obviously, I know earlier I did mention Patreon and YouTube and all that. That is entirely like, if you want to contribute more, there are ways to do so. But if you just stick around to watch the videos, thank you. We appreciate that. It means a lot. Like, we are grateful just for that alone.
Yeah.
That helps us pay the bills. So one of the biggest free things you can do is tell other people about the channel. Because, if 10 other people watch the channel because of you, that's, 10 times more views.
Yeah, 100%. Local Legends Burt Moran has been a member for 4 months and also gave us $2 asking saying on location really changes the way you see things. And yeah,
It really does.
no doubt, 100%.
Like a crazy amount.
Yeah. Agamemnon's Gym Bag for $17.76. Extremely patriotically love the specificity there. Shyamalan's documentary The Village is about people living in the backcountry of the national parks.
Shyamalan's documentary The Village was shot 20 minutes from here.
Most of the films that Shyamalan has made have been shot roughly 20 minutes from here.
We have eaten innumerable meals in the diner that was featured in The Happening.
Yeah, no, we grew up going to that diner, so once we got old enough to watch The Happening, it was kind of hilarious to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were like, why did you give it a worse name?
Yeah. Like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, the Village is one of those things that's about just, people who live in an off-the-grid location. It's actually one of my favorite thrillers. Shyamalan gets a lot of criticism for how slow burn his movies are.
Yeah.
He writes thrillers. They're supposed to be slow burn. They're supposed to keep you on your toes the whole time. They're supposed to make you think. And The Village is one of those movies that has just a fantastic, twist at the end. I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but yeah, it's fantastic movie.
Yeah. Wyatt Gilliams for $5 says, bit off topic and dead conversation, but what are your thoughts on the Fae?
Just in general, I think that in many cases, the stories are attempts to explain things that are not well understood. Changelings are a prime example of that. Changelings were children who, appeared to change behavior, essentially, to go from being normal children to very quiet or reserved, to not behave as was expected. And people used to attribute this to the belief that fairies had come and taken your actual child to adopt it as their own and left you something of a clone in its place. A lot of psychologists argue that this was a misunderstanding of autism. So I think in some cases you have that. In others, I'm religious. I'm a Christian, so I can't be a Christian and not believe in the supernatural world. That wouldn't make sense. In my opinion, the Bible is pretty clear that there are other divine entities beyond just God, such as angels. What are angels? That's one hell of a conversation. But I think so if you take a certain worldview, the one proposed by Dr. Michael Heiser, the Deuteronomy 32 worldview, there's an argument to be made that the gods of the other nations of the world, the Celtic gods, the Germanic gods, the Mesopotamian gods, all of that they are all basically what most people would understand as angels, and not even necessarily fallen ones. Just like their job as an angel was to be the patron deity of a nation. And that at some point there was a bit of a breakdown of communication where they were supposed to be under the Abrahamic God, and then some of them split off to do their own thing, and God has to like remind them of their place sometimes. So without getting too deeply into the theology of it, that's kind of the general idea. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, if I'm going to believe in the Christian God, I'm not banned from believing that there are gods and goddesses of other countries, of other nations. Therefore, that's probably what the Fae are. It would be inconsistent of me to say their gods aren't real, only mine is, when my religion allows for the existence of divine beings that rule over them.
Mm-hmm. I also find it fascinating, the element. Was it also in Deuteronomy where they talk about specifically you do not perform specific supernatural acts as a human?
Yeah,
like
Deuteronomy and
necromancy
Leviticus.
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was wild reading that during the last, prepping for the last Weird Bible, where it was like, oh, I didn't realize in the Bible it literally acknowledges
the existence of other spirits.
And the fact that humans can tap into the spiritual realm on their own or with the help from entities that they shouldn't be getting help from. Yep. It's like, I never realized that that was actually codified within the biblical canon.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just like the apocryphal deuterocanonical and non-canon works either. It's not just like Enoch.
Yeah.
We're talking about Leviticus and Deuteronomy. We're talking about Mosaic literature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where I net out on it.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Aaron for $5. Oh, wait, no, hang on. Sorry, skipped one. Yuma Wickersham for £199 says, thoughts on Peter Bergman, the man who appeared?
I don't recognize the name. Let me really quickly look it up.
There's
American actor, does that say?
Yeah. I'm gonna look up the man who appeared.
Yeah.
The Peter Bergman case pertains to the mysterious death of an unidentified man in Sligo County, Sligo, Ireland, on or around the 16th of June 2009. The man using the alias Peter Bergman, with two N's, had checked into the Sligo City Hotel on 12 June, where he stayed during the majority of his visit to Sligo.
All right. Interesting. Movements were captured on CCTV throughout the town. However, the details of his actions and intentions remain unknown. On the morning of June 16th, the body of the unidentified man was discovered at Ross's Point Beach, a popular recreation destination and fishing area near Sligo. Despite conducting a 5-month investigation into his death, the police, the guard, I don't know how to pronounce Irish, that Irish word at least, the guard have never been able to identify the man or develop any leads in the case. Mystery is often compared to the Tamim Shud case of Australia. I've heard about this one, in which an unidentified man was found dead on a beach shortly after the Second World War. Received new attention in the 2010s. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into this one, because that's a cool one that we might be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, my initial instinct here is...
And Irish media has English almost all the time. There's usually in English and Irish.
Yeah. I mean, my instinct from this, from the general reading that I'm getting, is okay. Yeah, so that's pretty north in Ireland. Even in June,
you think it might have been a religious thing?
No, I mean the reasoning. Maybe I'm thinking more specifically, hypothermia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking
June?
That is it. Yeah, I was there in April, which was not far off from that. It's cold. It's really windy.
Mm-hmm.
The waters there are deep, and they are cold. They are. So you know how?
Oh yes, the waters there. They're very deep.
The waters there are very cold. But you know how in Southern California, people don't really go in the ocean because it's so cold all year round.
Sure.
So that's a thing, because on the California side, there's a lot of upwelling of cold water from the seafloor rising to the top. That's why there's a lot of life there, because it brings up a lot of nutrients, but the water's very cold. from my understanding, it's a very similar situation on the west coast of Ireland.
Got it.
There's a lot of upwelling. It's very cold water. They have a lot of good fish there, but it's just generally cold year round. That's part of the reason why you have that type of climate there, where it's very temperate all year round. It's not extremely cold in the winter, but it's also not very warm in the summer. It's because of that really cold water that's there. So because of that, and because it was overnight and he was found without most of his clothes on, that my guess would be hypothermia, even if he didn't go in the water, because it doesn't get particularly warm in Ireland, even in June, especially at night.
Well, maybe I'll do some reading on it.
Yeah, I think you should.
See what we can come to.
Aaron for $5.06, love the specificity, saying, how much lore could a lore lodge if a lore lodge could lodge lore?
Several hundred episodes worth at this point.
It's true. Gom for $5 says, also, can I join the Dogman hunt? I live in central Michigan and can go anywhere the hunt would be. I'll send an email.
That is up to Roanoke.
Yeah. So send him the email. Clara B, Alex Ross, Kira's Dollhouse, Sweets Crochet, Captain C, Kato D.
Wow.
All
Thank
became
you.
members. Thank
you
you
guys.
so much.
Really appreciated.
Vampire from Pluto for $5 says, Wendigoon's Magic Spoon ads live rent-free in my head. Am I going to have to watch his ads now?
Maybe. Yeah,
Probably.
his are pretty good. We had some fun with this one because we know that they give him creative license. So, yeah, this one's fun.
Yep.
Back to our old ad style where we worked some of the channel lore into it.
Yep. I'm excited. Rabbit Space for $20.24. Love the year specificity. Saw you guys on the Unsubscribed podcast and have been hooked on your content ever since.
Ooh.
You guys are the best. Also, your doggo is adorable. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yeah, he is great. He's taking a nap over on the hardwood.
The man has pneumonia.
He knows he's being talked about now. Where's your tongue? That's fair.
That's fair. Kellen, the official data for
might be what he
$2,
wanted.
says, that was Uranium Fever by Elton Britt, used in Fallout.
Oh. Now I remember it.
Also, Caleb Grieve became a new member along with Yeti Boy 34.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
really
much.
appreciated.
John Delavina for $4.99 says, to be used towards purchase of hair products for your luxurious hair. I assume you mean me, and I very much
Probably.
appreciate it. I'm not sure.
And he needs them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep it, honestly. It's getting... I've always been curious to see what I'm like with the long hair. I'm beginning to feel as though I've satiated that curiosity sufficiently.
You're a little done with the midshipmen from the 1700s.
It's specifically when I'm like trying to lay in bed and just move my head and yank all of my hair.
Yep.
The amount of time it takes me to shower because of all the hair that comes out in the shower. How much more frequently I need to shower because the oils collect so much faster for some reason. Yeah, if you ever want to have a little bit more empathy for women, grow out your hair. Because, yeah, it hits pretty
Why would I
hard.
want that?
Cancel.
Amanda's sitting right over there.
Incredible. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I still like it too much to get rid of it, but it is becoming more and more annoying. The Castman 777 for 500 yen is asking, are you guys going to start using Rumble? You can talk about more controversial topics on those alt tech websites. I know for us, that comes down to primarily the usage rights.
Yeah, Rumble's got weird usage rights. If we could find somebody who really understands Rumble to set it up for us and just do that part of it, we'd be on Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, the reason we're not on Rumble is solely that we have not had the time to put ourselves on Rumble. It's not any sort of opposition to Rumble. But it's also not a, thing where like we feel like we're not allowed to talk about things here on YouTube, because honestly, the stuff we talk about, like, we don't try to get into the controversial stuff. Every now and then there's been a situation where YouTube's been like, naughty.
No.
But those were flat earth when they thought we were actually flat earthers. And Sound of Freedom when they seemed to think that we were like doing propaganda, when in reality I was like, hey, here's the claims the movie made. here's the claims that the real guy the movie is based off of made, and here's the claims that the people who don't like him have made. Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a video that's like, child trafficking is bad, guys. That's the main takeaway.
At worst case scenario, this got us all talking about it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Sid, Frank Unknown, and Lateral Damage. Yeah, sorry, I was combining letters there. Lateral Damage all became new members.
thank you. Thank you very much.
And then Pumpkin Bear gave us $5, asking, Mattis, my Dogman story and my Pocket Dimensions story is the same. I will at you in the Discord again.
Yeah, go for it. Man, your computer just does not want to run this stream tonight.
It really doesn't. I don't know. I have a theory as to why, but there's not much I can do about it.
It might help if you pause the video.
I did that a couple times already.
Okay,
It didn't make much of a difference. The next one is also Sebastian Denier Araz and Cybane became new members.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Doofenshmirtz,
Evil Incorporated?
no. Believe it or not, no. Doofenshmirtz Rule 34 for... Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I know.
Why would you want his nose? Probably.
Sometimes I love our job.
I'm just
Sometimes I don't.
just a platypus. Puts on like chains and everything.
Suit.
A platypus.
Whatever the fuck. Oh, I tried.
I'm just imagining Perry with the getup.
Don't.
Just doing shirts and like
We're gonna do get
in like a vinyl suit.
Oh, God.
Ah, yes, this is my dominator-inator.
The safe word is the tri-state area.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Anyway. Going to Warp Tour?
What?
That was the question.
That was the
Are
question?
we going to Warp Tour?
I didn't know Warp Tour was back.
I didn't know either.
Is there a Warp Tour show near us? Because I would love to go to Warp Tour since I didn't get to as a child.
Oh.
Although it's probably best I didn't get to go to Warp Tour as a child.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah, it's a 30-year anniversary. There is one in DC.
Wait. He's saying Teehee. I don't even know why I made that my username. I think I was high.
I hope, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a DC date, June 14th to 15th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's going?
He
What are you doing?
just makes a lot of sounds, dude.
I know, but it's more.
Oh, yeah, it looks like the lineup hasn't been announced yet.
Oh, got it.
Yep.
Did MCR make their comeback yet?
Yeah, they were just performing at when we were young.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw somebody who made like a When We Were Young Fest ranking as somebody who's not emo. And oh boy, they labeled that right. They ranked
Yeah.
MCR like a 5 out of 10 and called them disappointing, and ranked Wiz Khalifa doing a surprise song with Fall Out Boy a 1,000 out of 10. And I was like, just fall silent forever. Never again.
So I have one main question. Oh, I thought you were gonna respond to that.
Is it a question about the main?
No. I already have one. That's fine. Does Gerard still sound the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't say I'm shocked. Love to hear it.
He's one of those people who's just genuinely got a uniquely brilliant voice.
Yeah.
So
Love to hear it. Noska J Noska J177 for $2 says, "You're lucky your DMV's open on Saturday. I envy you."
yeah, I'm.
I'm lucky so far. I haven't had a
You'll-
a problem with DMV.
Envying people who have to deal with PennDOT is a choice.
Mm.
We have the second highest gas taxes in the country and probably the second worst roads.
Yeah, it ain't great.
The roads in Alaska Like the remote stretches of Alaska were better than the roads in like well-traveled areas of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the bad stretches of Alaska, everybody was like, what the hell? And we just looked at each other and we were like, this reminds us of home.
Yeah. Like we were in a just remote part of rural Alaska between Seward and Anchorage, and we were on this really bad road, cracks all over the place, and I'm like, yeah, this is standard.
Yeah.
This is normal.
Yeah, this is you become a good driver in Pennsylvania because you learn how to bob and weave for a variety of reasons, both things that are in the road and the people who are driving it.
Yes, especially if you're near the Jersey border.
Yeah, 100%. Mad Grubble for $9.99 says, our property had stairs in the woods. We were forbidden to go near them, so we played on them anyway. No one disappeared, but the stairs did. One day they were just gone like they never existed. Interesting.
Maybe they were a supernatural entity in and of themselves. Or maybe somebody just decided to move the stairs.
Yeah, or maybe the city was like, we need to get rid of these stairs before someone...
Or your parents were like, we told them not to play on the stairs and they keep doing it.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Frank Unknown for $5 says, what is the connection, if any, between the Smiley Face Killers and Jenny Greenteeth? Think about it.
Now I gotta look up Jenny Greenteeth.
We're looking up a lot of stuff tonight, aren't we? A lot of Jennies tonight.
A lot of Jennies.
Jenny Greenteeth, a.k.a. Wicked Jenny, Ginny Greenteeth, and Grinteeth, is a figure in English folklore. A river hag similar to Peg Powler and derived from the Grindylow. The Grindylow.
It's a creature in the counties of Yorkshire and Lancashire.
Yep.
Thought to be connected to Grendel.
She would pull children or the elderly into the water and drown them. The name is also used to describe pondweed or duckweed, which can form a continuous mat over the surface of a small body of water, making it misleading and potentially treacherous, especially to unwary children. This means the name is common around Liverpool and southwest Lancashire. Or Lancashire.
Grindylows have been used as shadowy figures to frighten children away from pools, marshes, or ponds where they could drown. So we've got, there's Peg Powler, Nellie Longarms, and Jenny Greenteeth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have thoughts on it, but I could look into it.
Yeah, and we got Wicked Jenny, Ginny Greenteeth, Grinteeth. Apparently, Jenny Greenteeth inspired the lake monster Meg Mucklebones in the 1985 Ridley Scott fantasy film Legend.
Often described as green-skinned with long hair and sharp teeth. Also described as lurking in the upper branches of trees at night, although this may be a folklorist confusion with the Northern English Ginny Hewlett, a folk name for an owl. Interesting. Has the alternate Grindylow has the alternate name Grendith or Grinteeth, which eventually developed into the term Jenny Greenteeth.
Oh yeah, we keep getting bothered by the guys who are in the middle of fixing my truck that we need to do the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, okay. I will do a video on the Loch Ness Monster.
I've been talking about it for years. I haven't been able
Aiden,
to...
what happened last time we did a folklore video?
Look, I've been talking about this since way before they started hating us for it.
I know. Well, I'll get to it.
I know. What are you... Yeah, he's just like...
He's antsy.
He's mucking about.
He's ready to go home.
Anthony Walden for $5 says, love the content guys been following since the TikTok days.
Woo!
Deep diver.
Long ago.
Joe Carp for $4.99 says, hey, Aiden, longtime fan, wondering if you've ever considered contacting Politis or having him as a guest.
I've tried on multiple occasions to do so.
Have you really?
Yes. He does not answer.
Really? Because he has been on other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why he doesn't answer.
I mean, probably for the same reason that he got in a fight with Mr. Ballin.
So that would assume that he has seen our content.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know why. I have tried to give him the benefit of the doubt on every single occasion, and it just has not materialized. So at this point, we're bigger than he is. He knows he's got to know the invite's there.
If he doesn't,
yeah, and I get it. At this point, we've been pretty critical of the guy. Maybe he just doesn't want to engage because he doesn't like being directly criticized, which I get. But we've tried, and it hasn't worked. So,
yeah.
All right, I see there's a couple more of those, and then I get to go home.
Yep. Zach Brown for $10 says, pay some bills. I got
I
10
love your
bucks to
band.
spare. Incredible.
Thank you.
Amanda Juarez became a new member. And the last one from the Castman777 for 1,000 yen. You should look into the Isdal woman. She was a Jane Doe who was found dead in Norway in the 70s, and she remains unidentified to this day. Many people think she was a spy during the Cold War.
Interesting.
I'm going to write this one down too.
Found in Bergen, Norway. Interestingly, it says she was most likely southeast Germany near Nuremberg, Bavaria. Yeah, so I mean, you know, being born in, I don't know if that would have been considered East Germany, but yeah, could end up being a spy of some kind.
The channel Bedtime Stories has a video on it.
Perfect. We'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
That's it. That's all.
Well, thank you all so very much for being here tonight. For those who became channel members this evening, thank you. Seriously, that is the most direct way that you can support what we do, is to just dedicate that $1 a month to the channel.
Whether it be there or Patreon or wherever you prefer.
Yeah, because that is the kind of thing that gives us stability and the ability to then expand the business. We've been trying for 6 months or so, and it's been difficult because it's hard to predict where we're going to be at any given time. So the best way that you can help us grow, help us start doing bigger documentaries, go down on the ground places, interview people, spend, you know, several weeks on a video instead of just one, would be by doing that. So yeah, thank you guys so much. It really does mean a lot, and we will see you on the next one, or whenever Aiden gets to that point. Bye, guys.
Yeah.